Welcome to another episode of the Wanderlust Wealth Show. Today, I have a fabulous human. Her name is Madi Johnson, and she is the founder of the Short-Term Rental Book Club, and she's a real estate investor in upstate New York. Absolutely crushes it. I'm so excited to talk to you today, Madi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited too.
Well, so Madi, can you tell everyone first, before the real estate investing, before the Short-Term Rental Book Club, who was Madi?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Madi was recently graduated college, so I was living in San Francisco. Skylar and I both went to USF, the University of San Francisco. And while I was in college, I studied entrepreneurship. So I was very focused on...
Wait, what? That's cool.
It is a real degree. People are like, is that an actual thing you can study? And I'm like, yeah. Incredible.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess that makes sense being in San Francisco, right? Because tech startups and okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I don't know if I'd recommend that major if you were in Oklahoma or something, but being in a place that's highly focused on new business ventures, it was super beneficial.
So what kind of classes do you take? And this is literally pure knowledge for me because I'm man, Olivia had to go back and do something.
Yes. They're all over the boards. We covered marketing, accounting, finance. We had a lot of thought leadership classes. So we read a lot of literature. We studied venture capital. A lot of our classes were make your own business and pitch it. So it was the most applicable thing I could have chosen to study.
Yeah, I'm telling this to my future children. Not going to force them to do anything, but if they have to pick a major.
It's amazing. A lot of our classes were focused on having internships. So when I was in college, I found this skincare startup on Craigslist, actually. And the founder had gone to Harvard Business School. She was extremely accomplished. And so that's where I started my career. It was me and the two founders working from her dining room table. And I ended up being at that skincare startup from the moment it was founded until it raised its Series A from Unilever. So that was
oh my gosh,
career. Yeah.
That is so cool.
It was amazing. I'm so grateful for that experience.
Oh, so why did you end up leaving there?
Yeah, I left there. I think I was there for 4 years. And I think just having started working there when I was an intern, I think I was literally 19 years old. Yeah. Once I was 21, I was okay, I want a little bit more than this. I don't want to be the intern anymore.
Yeah.
Take this stuff up. So I ended up going to another skincare startup called Peace Out Skincare. They do little acne dots and eye patches. I worked with them to build their marketing program from the ground up. So we did email marketing, social media, started running ads, doing search and all of that. And then once I left there, I went to a hair care company and did the same thing, kind of building these marketing programs from the ground up.
Okay, this is all so fascinating to me because I went to school for engineering. Literally nothing. I didn't even know what marketing was. And it's crazy how all businesses are so highly dependent on marketing and sales.
Yes.
Those are honestly the two key pillars of getting any. And it's just crazy to me that, I feel in school, people just don't really talk about that unless you're a marketing major or anything. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I feel even learning about it in school, nothing compares to those 4 years I spent at that startup, actually getting my hands dirty and seeing the ins and outs. It was so, so beneficial. And I use the knowledge literally every day.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of like real estate investing. You can read all the books, right? Listen to all the podcasts, but until you get started, that's where the real learning happens.
100%, yeah.
Okay, well, so sorry. I feel I keep cutting you off, but
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay, from there, how did everything progress? And so Skylar is your husband?
Fiancé.
Oh my gosh, how exciting.
Yeah.
But so did you guys, when you were in San Francisco this entire time then?
Yes. So I was working for the second skincare company, Peace Out Skincare. And I took an Uber to meet a friend downtown for drinks. And the Uber driver told me about rental arbitrage.
Oh.
And so I feel this was 2019. So in 2019, it was very much so every Uber driver has a side hustle and they always want to talk to you about your career because they're trying to advance theirs.
Yeah.
And so I went home and told Skylar, and we had tried to start a bunch of different companies. We tried to launch a vegan cheese company. We had marketing agency for a while. So we were actively searching for an idea. And when I found out about rental arbitrage, I went home and I was this is it. This is what we do.
I love that. Okay, so how did you actually get into it? What did the journey look like? How did you start?
Yeah, so I think that override was maybe in October of 2019.
Okay.
So I went home. I was like, this is a very easily executable idea, which I talked about this on Natalie Palmer's podcast. But I think like the pipeline from like someone who wants to be an entrepreneur to like into rental arbitrage, into buying their own properties, it's such a good pipeline because it's like an easy way to get into entrepreneurship where like the foundation is laid for you. Like there's a clear path, there are clear steps. So we like called a bunch of apartment owners in San Diego because we followed this influencer. His name is Chris Choi. So he was like the rental arbitrage influencer. He has like, if you look him up, he has like a Bentley. He's very like over the top.
Oh my gosh.
He was doing rental arbitrage in San Diego. So we're like, let's just do San Diego. Like, I don't know how else you would find a place to do it. So we just called a bunch of apartment owners, set up a bunch of tours, and then went down to San Diego for our winter break because we were both working 9 to 5s. And we signed for 2 apartments, furnished them, got them up and running during Christmas, and then went home and started like managing them remotely.
How did you find these places?
Zillow. It was a little, I think it was easier back then.
Yeah,
like,
fair.
No one knew what it was. So they were like, sure, why not?
It's like, I can make a little bit of extra money. Sure.
Yeah.
Wait, that is awesome. So I guess, do you still have those or did you end up letting those go?
We ended up letting those go, I think about 6 months ago. They were profiting, I mean, close to like 60 grand a year, which was amazing. We ended up having 4 with the same owner. But it was just so much busy work for Skylar where it was like the money that we were making wasn't worth the effort. And the owner wasn't willing to like do any upgrades. So after 4 years of rental arbitrage, the units were like very run down and we just weren't comfortable hosting people there anymore.
Yeah, because that ends up ruining your like Airbnb ratings and stuff like that. And it's just not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. In terms of busy work, like how, like in comparison to your other properties, what was the difference?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference was that those were the only ones that we were self-managing and they were also the most difficult. So like I said, like, the owner wasn't willing to fix things. So like the bathtub needed to be resurfaced. The heaters were broken and the owner was like, I'm not paying for them. If you want heat, you can fix them. Like there was no AC, like there was heat everywhere. And so it was just like constantly putting out fires and like year over year, our revenue was actually dropping because we had to start charging a lower rate just so that like price to value ratio still made sense for guests.
Right.
And I think most of it was like, I think I said busy work because that's the easy answer. But I think what you said, like it was kind of like our reputation. We were like, if someone who follows us books these Airbnbs, that is not who we are. And that is not what we want to have represent us.
Yeah. No, that is so fair. I know it's so funny because like, so my real estate business is called Yellow Door Getaways. And so literally all of my properties have a yellow door. And I almost didn't put one in this house just because it's like slightly, it's a nicer home and it's bigger. I'm like, is that childish? Like, no. The door is yellow and it is about the brand at this point.
Yeah, I love that. It's so identifiable. I love the yellow door thing.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. Well, so you basically always knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Was there like any other avenue that you ever considered going, or was it like entrepreneur, ride or die from the beginning?
Yeah, I think it was entrepreneur from the beginning. Like when I was little, I remember one story, when my mom would have friends over, I'd go to the backyard and like collect a bunch of rocks. And I would ask her to write all of her friends' names down. And then I would like paint their names on rocks and have them come into my store. I'd be like, oh, let me know if anything looks interesting. And I would like sell these rocks, or I would do like garage sales of my Barbies or like lemonade.
Oh my gosh.
So I think for really early on, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I actually started college as a pre-med major thinking that like maybe I would be a doctor for some reason. But that lasted a year. And then I was like, no, I need to go back to what I've always loved, which was entrepreneurship.
Honestly, props to you though for making that like change so early, right? Because I feel like there are so many doctors and like I went into engineering, even though from the beginning I knew I did not want to be an engineer, but I was just like, this is what you do, you know? So the fact that you kind of had that foresight so early, I think is huge.
Yeah, it was very stressful at the time because it's like, oh my God, I just spent like a year and most of high school like thinking I was going to be a doctor. But I am very grateful I decided to like cut the cord early.
Yeah. Well, and it's also a reminder too, is like you can change your mind at any point in time. Because I know so many people do have that like sunk cost fallacy feeling, especially if you are a doctor. Or for me, I'd gone through 4 years of engineering and then another 3 years of graduate school. And then I started working. I was just like, well, have I really spent these last 10 years doing this degree that I don't even want to use? But at that point, it's like, okay, do I stay in what I don't enjoy? It's literally sucking away my soul just because I feel like I've wasted time. Or do I take this time now to go into something that I really love and I'm going to be really excited about for the rest of my life?
Yeah, it's so hard. I feel like when it's yourself, the sunk cost fallacy is so real. But I feel like what helps me is like, what would you say if a friend was in your position?
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, it's never too late to change your mind. But when it's yourself, for some reason, you're like, I have to stay on this path that I've decided on.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, so you get your arbitrages in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
Yeah, we ran those, I think, for about a year and a half. And then we started looking for a property to purchase because we were like, okay, this is obviously it's very hard work, but it's more doable than we thought. So we were comfortable like investing more money into a place that we bought.
Yeah.
So we started looking and we landed on Big Bear. This was in 2020. So we bought a duplex in Big Bear, and that was our first owned Airbnb. So we had a unit in the front and a unit in the back. We lived in the front for a little while, rented out the back.
Look at that house hacking.
Yeah, right? It's like the perfect way to start. And then eventually we moved out and rented both units. And then we ended up selling that property in 2022.
Why did you end up selling it?
I think you could tell with Big Bear, like I'm sure most people are familiar with the Big Bear market. It just got so popular so quickly. And we were really fortunate to have bought before that happened. And when we sold, I think it was just like, I could tell that the market was about to like take a turn because there were so many Airbnbs. So we were able to sell at the height of the market. And we were also looking at, I think we made about $215,000 on that sale.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's huge. And it's untaxed too, right? Because you guys lived in, oh my God.
Completely untaxed.
Well,
it was incredible.
Can you explain to anyone, in case they don't know what that rule is in terms of taxes for a primary residence if you sell it?
Yeah. So if you've lived in a primary residence, I think for 2 years, you can take $250,000 tax-free. A lot of people think you have to hit that 2 years, but you don't. It's prorated. So we were there for a year and a half. So we got 75% of that 250 we could get tax-free.
Wait, I did not know. Wait, that's huge.
It's huge. I mean,
oh my
don't
gosh.
quote me on that. That's what our accountant said, and that's what we did on our taxes, and it was fine. But yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's like anyone, even if you're thinking of doing a live-in flip, right? Like you could buy a house, fix it up, increase the equity, profit 200 or something K. And it's different for if you're single or if you're married, because isn't it like, I thought it was 250 if you're single and then 500 if you're married, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. I love real estate.
It's amazing. Like we've been like renting an apartment for the last 2 years and having conversations about like, why aren't we doing another house hack? Like this thing made us so much money, but for some reason we're like, well, we're past that now. No.
Yeah, I guess why are you renting? Like, what has stopped you from buying something?
Well, when we sold that property in Big Bear, we decided to move to upstate New York because I think this was like the area we wanted to really grow our business. And so we had planned to buy a property here, but also during that time, like it was a great time to sell and it was also a terrible time to buy. So we put offers in on like 3 different properties. We didn't get them. And then we found this entire building for rent that has 2 units in it. So we're doing rental arbitrage. I wouldn't really call it house hacking, but in this town that we're in, you can only have an Airbnb if your primary residence is on the same parcel. Yeah. So we're living on the top unit, Airbnb the bottom. And I think it was just the nature of like not being able to buy anything. And also we're on like the main drag with all the antique shops and restaurants. And the house that we're in is worth like $1.5 million. So we'd never be able to buy it.
Yeah. That's honestly such a good deal though, because I remember even before I started house hacking, I kind of started like rental arbitrage hacking-ish, house hacking where I was living in an apartment and it was just the extra bedroom, but I didn't want a full-time roommate, but I had a friend of mine who lived closer to the office. I lived about 45 minutes and I would commute, but my place was in New Orleans, like right in town. So she would rent that from me for the weekends. And that was my first like, wait a minute, this is like consistent income I'm really doing nothing for.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So why did you pick upstate New York?
Yeah. So at the time when we were moving or like when we were selling our home in Big Bear, I was working for TechVestor, which is like a nationwide short-term rental fund. And I was on their acquisitions team. So I was looking at properties and analyzing them all over the country.
Okay, that's huge. That is like the best skill ever.
That was a great skill. And that's why when you asked me about your mentorship calls, I was like underwriting. Like that is something I know like the back of my hand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I was finding like a lot of great deals here, or what I thought were great deals. And when I would present them to the team, they were like, these look good, but there's not enough data to support the purchase. And that was a huge bummer for me at my job. But on the personal side of investing, I was like, that's kind of a good thing. Because like I see the potential so clearly here, but someone who has like so much fiduciary duty can't go into this market. Yeah. So like I'm kind of protected from these funds or like institutional investors coming here to compete with me. So when I made that realization, I was like, this is where I want to be on the number side. And then also I just love like antique furniture. I love old houses. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds.
I love that. I know that's like, I used to live in New Orleans and the architecture there. It's amazing. Just so fab. And then it was like, I was back in London and that's why I have this like colorful granny chic like design that I really want to do, even though a lot of like new markets, really cool for the modern take, but I just love the intricacies of older houses.
Me too. Same.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so then how did everything progress in upstate New York? Like, what was your trajectory there? And then after that, we'll kind of start talking about the other business that you created.
Yeah. Yes. So when we first moved here, I inherited a line of business from TechVestor, which was called Airbnb in a Box. So they decided not to run that line of business anymore. So the founder was like, do you want to run with the clients that we currently have under your own umbrella? So I started a business here where I would work with investors to find a property, close on it, find an agent, lending, all of that stuff. And then we would manage the renovation, design it, and then manage it for them.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So that was awesome. That was like really, really great income. I think we did 5 of those the first year we were in upstate New York. And then after we did those 5, we had kind of like 5 really good case studies. And then we started raising capital on our deals. So now we still do some of the client work. But for the most part, we're raising capital for our deals. Like we're giving out equity and buying a home with a group of investors.
Okay, awesome. And so just out of curiosity, for that service that you were giving before, how much does that cost, right? Because some people are like looking for turnkey. They don't really have to do anything. It kind of sounds like that's what you guys really help with. Like, how much does that even cost?
Yeah, we charge between $40,000 and $60,000.
And that's for everything except for like furnishing and the actual cost of renovation and stuff?
Yes, correct. So it was like the management and facilitation of everything, but none of the actual materials.
Okay. I mean, it's like steep, but really for what you're getting, because people don't realize how much freaking work it is to buy properties, right? So it's like, okay, maybe if you're a first-time investor and have $20,000 in your bank account, probably not the route. But later down the line, when you do have capital and you realize how much work it takes, like I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, in a few years, that's something I'd probably pay for.
Yeah. At first, when I was at TechVestor, because that's where we developed the service, I was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way anyone's going to pay that much. But then you meet the people who are attracted to the service, and it's like, we have a lot of clients who live internationally, and they've never even come to the property or seen the property. So it's like a very different type of investor who like is attracted to this type of situation.
So fair. And so for your deals now that you're raising money for, like, what are the kind of people you are bringing in as investors?
Yeah. So most of the people, I'll start the first deal that we did, Skylar and I did on our own. So we didn't really have like a built out team yet. So most of the investors came via our social media, but they were all people that we had met in person before. Yeah. And so when people ask me like, oh, how do I meet investors? Like, how do I find them? Like, it's in person. Like once you meet someone in person, I think there's a certain level of trust that's built up. So yes, you can post about your opportunities on social media and attract those people you've met in person. But I really think it is all about relationships. And then after we went through that first one kind of on our own, we were like, this is a lot of work. Like the investor relations alone is a huge lift. So we started working with our friend, Sarah Glidewell, who was half of the Carwells, and she now handles all of like the fundraising for us. And a lot of those people actually come from her mentorship program. So it's been really interesting to see, like, I'd say the biggest learning is that like these investors come from existing relationships.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like I have investors on a couple of my properties and they're literally friends from college.
Yeah.
I remember this was when I was still working my corporate job. I sent a text to like 15 of my friends in college, like, hey, I'm getting into real estate. Would you be interested in partnering? And it's like, I just needed 3 of them to say yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny because like one of the couples that invested in our first deal, I did ballet with her when I was very young. And then I remember going to like a high school party at her husband's house when I was like 15. So it's it's so crazy that people who would be interested in like working on something like this.
100%. Oh my gosh. Okay. And so upstate New York, like what kind of houses do you see are working right now? Like what does the market even look like over there? Because, you know, I know for me too, like I have a ton of students who live in New York, right? They're in New York City. They're like, I can't really house hack here. It's really tough. The prices are crazy, but they are starting to look into upstate New York. Like I had one student, she bought a duplex in upstate New York, stuff like because things are way more affordable. So yeah, what are you seeing in the market there?
Yeah, I would say what doesn't work or what people try to buy, but that we haven't really found a way to work is anything that's like turnkeys, like anything that's already renovated, anything that's like ready to go. You're going to have a really hard time making that into a good deal. But what does work is like you do have to create your own values. Like a lot of the houses we buy, we put like $200,000 to $300,000 into the renovations alone because we're buying old houses that like if you were to scroll through the Zillow pictures, you're like, there's no way this is going to be a good Airbnb. But you have to do that because that's the only way we can find deals that pencil. Because then also you're getting the Airbnb revenue, but we also have an opportunity to do a cash out refinance.
Yep. 100%, especially when you're working with investors, I'd say like that is the best way to do it because you have so much more flexibility in how you're going to structure the deal, you know?
100%. And I think it's a nice like fallback. Like if our revenue assumptions are like too high, they'll still be able to get their money back fairly quickly because of the equity gain through the renovations.
Totally. And so, you know, you're putting 200 to 300K into it. How much are you buying them for? And a question on top of that is when you're bringing in investors, like, are they funding the whole deal in cash or are you getting a loan? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, we've done things all across the board. So we've never really done everything the same way twice, to be completely honest. We've raised capital on 4, closed on 3. So the 4th one is still in escrow. But the first one we did, 2 out of the 4, we did a DSCR loan, so 25% down, and the investors funded the down payment, closing costs, furniture reno. And then we also charge like an acquisition fee on the front end for us to compensate us for our time. And then one of the 4 we actually bought in cash. The purchase price was like $140,000, so it was like much easier to just raise that extra money in cash than to go to the bank. And then the 4th deal we're doing is a seller finance deal.
Okay, y'all, do I have something exciting for you? Now, I just came out with a brand new free training on exactly how you can get started investing in real estate within the next 3 months. Because if you're someone who wants more freedom in your life, the ability to travel the world and do the things that you actually want to do in life, you're going to want to listen up. Trust me. Now, this training is freaking awesome. I literally go in and spill the tea on the number one strategy that is working right now, like literally today in today's market. And I go over how to look at deals and make sure that they actually cash flow and how to set your properties up so that you can run them from anywhere in the world. Like I literally have managed my properties from over 6 different time zones. So if you are stuck in analysis paralysis, you don't know where to start when it comes to real estate investing, but you know that it's something that you want to do in the future, this training is going to be for you. So to check it out, click the link in the show notes or DM me the word hack, like HACK on Instagram, and I will send you the link. Now let's dive back into the show.
Okay, awesome. Okay, love it. Look at the creativity.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Okay, well, I don't want to go too much further in the weeds about upstate New York. What I really want to talk to you about is this other business that you created, which kind of seems like a labor of love type of situation.
Yeah.
The STR Book Club. So can you tell me a little bit more about the short-term rental book club? What is it? I know I'm a part of it, so I know what it is. But so everyone else knows what it is.
Yeah. The short-term rental book club is a book club / monthly book subscription. So instead of having people go out and buy their own books, we actually ship them the book every month. So either ship them the physical book or email them an audiobook and Kindle version. And so we spend each month reading the book. We have some content during the month, like a post where you can like talk to people about the book or drop your favorite quotes. And then at the end of the month, we have our monthly book club meeting. And each meeting is hosted by a different short-term rental expert. So we'll have people come on and talk about like their specific experience within the SDR industry and then also how that ties in with the book that we just read.
I love that. So what actually stemmed the idea for the short-term rental book club?
Yeah. We were, maybe like a little over a year ago. I've always been a huge reader. I read constantly. And our friend Sarah, to bring her up again, she started posting about her books on Instagram. And she was like, so many people are like replying to my stories about books. And I was like, that's crazy. I had no idea anyone would even care. And so I started sharing like little snippets of what I would read in the morning. Like I would do like a daily post of like what page I was on and then add a little bit of thoughts about like what I thought of that page or how it related to like what I do for work. And so many people started responding and like wanting to talk to me about like that specific thing. I think like at least like 10 people were like, you should start a book club. So
okay, I love that. That is so wonderful because I think I remember when I first started following you, you would post, like some little snippets. I'm like, oh, that's so good. And I love seeing quotes and snippets from, because I'm also a big reader, like go through a lot of stuff. And I think that so many people want that community, right? Especially post-COVID, post-everything. So having, like, I think the book club was honestly so genius.
It's been great. I feel like the community thing is like such a bonus that we weren't really like anticipating, but it makes so much sense because a lot of our members have come from like mentorship programs that are only like 10 weeks. And so afterwards, they're like, what now? Like, who am I supposed to talk to? How am I going to meet more people? And so it's such like a low cost way to like keep engaged within the industry and make so many connections.
Totally. I love that. Well, so, okay, I kind of want to dig into a little bit more of like the entrepreneurship and starting a business side of things, right? Because there are so many people have great ideas, right? Like think about, and I remember I actually am not a huge idea person, weirdly enough. Like I have a lot of creative energy in different ways, but when it comes to like thinking of a new idea, I would say that's not my forte. But I remember I used to date someone who he always had just wild, incredible ideas for businesses and all of that stuff, but never actually got started on any of them. Like, what does that process look like for someone who has an idea and actually getting that to like market, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely fall into the category of your friend where like I have a ton of ideas and for so long I was just like failure to launch. Like I was like, why do I have these ideas? Like what good are they if I can never put them to action?
Right.
And so I think the key for me was like involving other people. So like when you just have an idea and you're like, I'm gonna do this by myself. You just have to be honest with yourself. No, you're not. And so I brought in Skylar, of course, and then my brother to help me like launch this because I knew if I shared my idea and could like convey the value to them, they would keep me accountable to like keep me moving on and doing all the steps. So once I got them on board, we just started like formulating. And I think one of the biggest tools for me in terms of actually launching it was Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers.
Love that book. I like used it to a T for my coaching program as well. Yeah.
It's incredible. And I think like if you were to pick up that book and not have an idea already, it is very abstract. But because I had a specific idea, I'm sure you found too, he would be like, add a guarantee. And I'd be like, oh, guarantee for book club right here. Or like, it was so applicable. So I just went through that like for a few hours every evening until I had like the whole business plan built out.
Yep. No, I love that. There's like literally so many good but yeah, that book. And it's so funny because like I think Alex and Layla are incredible, but I would say their ethos doesn't like quite align with how I do life because I'm very much like work hard, play hard, and I love to take my breaks. I'm going to Argentina for 3 weeks, no computer and type of situation.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
If there's something that they are really freaking good at, it is building businesses for damn sure.
It's incredible. Like that book alone, that's the only one I've read of theirs. I'm assuming the other ones are just as good.
So they've got $100 million offers and $100 million leads. I preferred offers over leads, but that could have also just been because of where I was at when I was first reading them, potentially. So I feel like maybe leads would be a good one for me now to reread because I feel really strong on my offer, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But so something that you mentioned about the accountability piece, and this is just so key for literally everything you want to do in life. Like even real estate investing in general, like I know that there's so many people out there who want to go buy their first, second, third property or want to go buy a hotel or something like that. But because they don't have that accountability, they won't start it. And it's so funny. I just joined a new gym here in Denver. And before I was just working out by myself. And I've been working out. I'm a pretty like, what is the word? I'm a pretty good action taker. Like I usually self-motivated. That's what I was going to say. I'm pretty self-motivated and will get things done. But for whatever reason, this whole desire to work out was really waning earlier this year. But then I joined a gym where they have classes, and if you miss a class, you lose $20. And that accountability, I haven't missed and I remember even the other day, I drove to the gym, was like, do I just sign in and leave because I don't feel like going? But like the act of like that accountability, the act of going and arriving, just that alone made me stay and actually get my workout in. So it's the same thing with joining mentorships or just having community. I think that's where the STR book club is also so great too. It's like having that community of people you can lean on is just huge.
It's huge. Yeah. And I remember, like I said, I'm not self-motivated really. Like I tend to, I have ADHD. So it's like, I have a lot of ideas and I'm all over the place and it's hard for me to action it. But I remember like not only with book club bringing in Nick and Skylar, but before we started buying properties upstate, like within my friend group, everyone was buying houses. And eventually I was like, why am I not doing this? Like, this is embarrassing almost. And so like you really are who you surround yourself with. I think that's the benefit of like, not only if you join a mentorship program or book club, are you learning things, but you're meeting people and you're building up this friend group who can actually like really elevate you in life.
Completely. Oh my gosh. Well, and so with the STR book club, like you've grown it like I feel like from day one, it was already huge. So like, how did you grow it so fast? And like, what are some, let's say there's someone out there who wants to create some sort of membership or wants to start a business or wants to put out a product. Like, how are you able to get so many people really stoked about it from the beginning? Yeah.
I would love to say that it was like all me and I had this crazy good idea, but to be completely honest, it was our network. Like I have a lot of friends who are short-term rental influencers, and I've spent the last like 3-4 years like networking with them, like responding to all their stories, commenting on their posts, meeting them at conferences, like creating genuine relationships with them. Now I consider them all friends.
Yeah.
But when we launched this, like they were all so excited. I'm getting the chills because it's just so sweet. But they were all so excited to like support me.
Yeah.
And that's truly what took off. Like the Carwells, Zoe Burkhoff, Natalie Palmer, they all just posted about it for me. And like every time one of them posted, it was like 30 new users. Like,
oh my gosh,
it was crazy. And then because of that support, we ended up buying a sponsorship package for Level Up Your Listing.
Yep.
And that's where we got about 1/3 of our members. And that was a huge investment for like a brand new business, but we're going back again next year. Like it's the best decision I've ever made.
Love it. Love it. I know I have finally blocked off my calendar. I'm going to level up next year.
I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. And so right now, it sounds like you're doing a lot, right? You've got real estate investing. You've got this other consulting thing. I know you're doing some other stuff too. And you've got STR book club. How are you doing everything, right? Because I think a lot of people get super overwhelmed, right? They see people on social media and it seems like they're doing everything. And it's like, how are you doing all of this? So what can you say to that?
Yeah, I would say it might seem like I'm doing it all and it's like really easy, but it's extremely difficult. And like every day I'm like, gosh, I didn't finish my to-do list. I didn't do enough today. Like it never feels like I'm doing enough. But I think the mindset that I'm kind of in right now, at the beginning of the year, I read this book called The Pumpkin Plan, which basically says like, if you're growing a giant pumpkin, you can't have a vine with 10 pumpkins or else they're all going to be like medium pumpkins. But when I read that, I was like, I don't have any pumpkins. So how am I supposed to know which ones to trim?
Right.
And so this year, my intention was not to go deep on any one thing, but to plant a bunch of pumpkins on my vine so that at the end of this year, I can say, okay, what are my big pumpkins that I want to focus on next year? And what ones am I going to trim back? So I think like I've just kind of accepted that like I'm doing a lot and I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things as well as I would want to.
Yeah.
But that's just how it has to be for me to figure out like the direction that I want to go in.
Okay. I love that because I feel like that was me last year. Because last year was my first year, like full year as a full-time entrepreneur. And I call it my freshman year of entrepreneurship. Because, and it's the same thing as being like freshman year of college. You have to go out there, try all the different classes, right?
Yeah.
Try everything and see what you like, see what you don't like. And then after a couple of years, sometimes it's your sophomore year, sometimes it's your junior year, that's when you like actually figure out your major.
Exactly.
And I feel like now I'm at the place where it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing now.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like you've got to get a taste of everything to figure out what brings you the most money and what you also like the most.
Truly. Well, and it's like even the thing that brings you the most money might not be the thing that you like the most. Like I know for me, Like I was doing brand partnerships, and brand partnerships do really well, right? Like I had one brand where it was like a $21,000 deal, and I said no. And I was just like, I just know I'm going to resent you. Like
I'm the same way with paid content.
Yeah. I was just like, this doesn't seem like I'm going to have fun with this. So let's not.
I'm the same way with that.
So I guess in terms of your pumpkins right now, like what do you feel like is growing the most, and what are you enjoying the most?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what I truly am enjoying the most right now, which I did not expect to enjoy the most, is designing our owned properties.
Yep.
So I did design for all of our clients, and I don't like it. I don't want to, this is going to sound mean, I don't want your opinion. I don't want to make it. I want to do what I'll do.
I get this 100%. No, you can tell this to me because I literally have a design company, and I'm so particular now about. Before it was like, oh yeah, we'll do anyone's property. I'm like, nope, we sure won't. Like you have to be extremely aligned and have literally no real say, honestly.
Yeah. That's the ideal client. So like, I think that freedom combined with like, now we have like pretty large budgets so I can buy the nice furniture that I want to buy. I'm really, really enjoying that. It's not necessarily making me a lot of money, but it's definitely, I want to do more of like designing our own properties. Also, I love sharing like the things that we buy because I'm constantly looking at like, yesterday I shared 100 of my favorite wallpapers when someone asked me a few wallpaper recommendations, and it didn't feel like work. Like I did it in bed as I was watching Sex and the City, and I was like, this is the life.
Oh my goodness. Wait, so and it's no, I love that. And it's like there's also this balance between like what you make a business out of versus what you just kind of do for fun. Like I know that there's some things where it's like, yeah, I could make a business out of it, but I just like that there's no pressure around it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like would I like doing wallpaper selections if someone paid me to post about it? Probably not.
Exactly. But the cool thing is like, especially with your real estate, with the businesses that you've kind of created this space where you can try all the different things, right? And I think for so many people, it's like they just don't have the energy and space to even think about that because they're grinding away at their job. They don't really like what they're doing, but they also don't feel like they have enough time, and they get home and they're exhausted. And like part of it, I remember when I quit my job, I like went to Portugal for 3 months and just didn't really do anything because I just needed space after quitting my job to be like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What do I even like doing?
Yeah, it's so true. You need to take like creativity. Like I can't design unless I have space to do nothing. And the book we just read last month for the short-term rental book club, the author put a little like subnote in there that like 80% of the book he wrote on days where the day before he had done absolutely nothing. So like literally the book could not have been written had he not taken like full days of rest. So it is really hard when you're in 9 to 5, but I don't know if they can prioritize it somehow.
Well, that's like, have you read, what is it, 10X is easier than 2X?
No,
wait. Was it that book? I forget. Like, I read 2 really great books this year. It was either 10X is easier than 2X, and then there was another book that I cannot remember for the life of me. And they talked about how they scheduled out their year, right? And it's like over 30% of their year was just like rest time, essentially, like not doing anything during the day, not doing anything for weeks at a time. And that's kind of why for me, it's so important. I'm right now going through a really intense period, setting up this property. I got a launch happening literally this whole week. I just got back from, there's just a lot happening. And I'm like, I need 3 full weeks of nothing.
And I think that's one of the biggest pros to doing this work. It's like when you're at a 9 to 5, you can't tell your boss like, hey, I want to do twice as much work for the next 2 months and then take the next 2 months off. Like they're going to be like, that's absurd. But when you're not sure, you can do that. Like you can work 12-hour days knowing that you're going to get like 2 months off. And I just love that flexibility.
100%. Oh my gosh. Well, so we are going into the final 3 interview questions that I ask every single person on the show. The first one is, what does your ideal perfect day look like?
Ooh, I love that. I always wake up without an alarm. So definitely waking up like without an alarm. I would say I love, like, speaking of creativity, if I have a day where I can do my creative work in the morning, that is like such a treat for me. But sometimes, like, with the nature of our work, like you said, like whether you're on a 9 to 5 or like I do a lot of contracts and like finance stuff, that always takes precedence. So if I could design in the morning, that would be great. And I would say like laying by a pool in the afternoon. Like there's nothing I love more than like being by a pool. I don't know. And then like having dinner, reading a book before I go to bed and like going to bed early.
No, I love that one. It's so funny because like most people's perfect day really is so freaking simple. It's so simple. And it's just like really having control over how your day goes, you know? And now that I think about it, I'm like writing some sort of a book about like the ideal perfect day and like, like whatever life lessons around that. That would be really cool.
I love that. There's this meditation I'll send you on YouTube where it like has you visualize like a day in your like dream life. And it's so good.
Okay, yeah, definitely send me that because I did the whole like vivid vision for my life, right? And so I have a it's a journal entry for 5 years from like a year and a half ago. And it goes over like what I'm doing during the day and everything. And it's so crazy because I've already seen like parts of it manifest itself into reality.
I love that. That's incredible.
Okay, question number 2. What is your mantra or just something that you tell yourself over and over again?
Yeah, I have a really good one that I adopted this year because I think speaking again of like, I've always kind of had like a struggle with like taking action. Yeah, I kind of realized like the reason why I'm afraid to do that is because I'm afraid to fail. And like if you never take action, you can say, like if you're looking at someone else's short-term rental design, you can say like, well, if I designed one, it would be way better.
Right.
And if you never do it, you can stay at that like level of superiority, but that's really just like a huge like protective mechanism. So this year, my motto was I'm not afraid to be seen trying.
Love that so much. Yes.
And it's really helped a lot.
Yeah, that is huge. Huge. Okay, and last question. What does wealth mean to you?
I think wealth means to me just like being able to like make any decision that I want to make. Like if I don't want to work one day, if I want to travel someday, or like if I want to fly first class or stay at a really nice hotel or like buy a new pair of shoes or just like all of these things, like having full control over each decision I make in my life, because like most decisions are dictated based off of money or like how much you have to work. So I think it's truly just like freedom to decide how I spend my days, what I buy and where I go.
Completely. I love that, Maddie. This has been so freaking wonderful. Where can people find you? Maybe they want to get in contact with you for maybe it's to learn about wallpapers, and maybe it's to join the STR book club.
Yes. So Skylar and I have our Instagram and TikTok. Our Instagram is at Skylar and Madi, and our TikTok is at Madi and Skylar. It's flip-flopped. And then the Short-Term Rental Book Club is at the STR Book Club on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, this was so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.